The Velhari Council had been asking the question for 11 years. Who will stop us? They asked it when they glassed the moons of Prethon 4. They asked it when they dismantled the Sanghari Compact, a civilization 4,000 years old, in 72 hours. They asked it when they strung the corpses of the Marathai Elder Council across the orbital rings of their own homeworld, a warning to every species in the outer spiral that resistance was not merely futile, it was aesthetic foolishness. 11 years. 37 civilizations. Not one answer. Until the day Commander Mira Vasquez walked into the Velhari Grand Chamber with blood on her boots and a datapad in her left hand, and said, quietly, in perfect high Velhari, "I will." The chamber fell silent in a way that silence rarely manages, completely, instantly, like a sound wave had been surgically removed from the universe. 300 Velhari delegates, beings who had watched stars die without flinching, stared at the human woman standing at the entrance arch. She was not tall by human standards. She was not particularly imposing. She wore a battered gray field jacket over standard Earth Defense Corps armor, the left pauldron scorched black. Her dark hair was pulled back in a utilitarian knot. There was a gash across her left cheekbone that hadn't been treated, either from lack of time or lack of interest. The boots were where they all looked, eventually. The blood was still wet. Grand Executor Tharvin, 8 feet of iridescent exoskeleton and cultivated menace, rose from his throne seat at the chamber's center ring. He had overseen the extinction of 11 sapient cultures. He had accepted the surrender of 43 planetary governments. He had never, in his 190 years, been interrupted. "Human," he said. The translation bead in Myra's ear rendered it with appropriate contempt. "You were not invited." "No," Mira agreed. She walked forward. Nobody stopped her. Perhaps they should have tried harder to understand why nobody stopped her. That reflex, that instinctive hesitation, was important data they were failing to collect. "I invited myself." She reached the address floor, a circular platform of black stone inlaid with the sigils of every civilization the Velhari had consumed. She looked down at it briefly, then back up at Tharvin. "The Marathai contacted Earth 6 weeks ago," she said. "Before you finish them off. They sent us everything. Your fleet dispositions, your supply chains, your council's internal communications, your tactical doctrine." She held up the datapad. "All of it." Tharvin made a sound like grinding gravel. "Amusement," the bead told her. "And what did your people do with this information, little human?" "Tremble." "We worked," Mira said. 2,000 light-years away, in the Prethon debris field where the Velhari forward fleet had been sitting fat and comfortable for 8 months. Fleet Admiral Kai Odia was giving a very short speech to his crew. "Execute," he said. The EDCS Reckoning, Earth's first true carrier-class warship, built in secret over 4 years inside the hollow shell of a decommissioned asteroid, dropped out of concealment alongside 11 sister ships. Behind them, 317 smaller vessels. Destroyers, torpedo runners, electronic warfare platforms humanity had spent a decade quietly, patiently, obsessively designing. The Velhari forward fleet had superior numbers. They had superior individual firepower. They had 400 years of unbroken tactical tradition. What they did not have was Kai Odia, who had spent his entire career studying every engagement the Velhari had ever fought, cataloging their doctrine, their formations, their sublime and monstrous confidence, and building, quietly, the exact shape of weapon design to destroy it. Humanity had not fought the Velhari before today. That was the trap. The Velhari knew how to fight opponents who had been ground down, demoralized, terrified. They had never fought an enemy arriving fresh and furious, and carrying 37 civilizations worth of reasons. The first salvo hit before the Velhari sensors fully resolved the contact. Kai had done his math on their reaction times, their command hierarchy's latency, the 3-second window between detection and response order. He had built an entire tactical philosophy inside that 3-second window. The Velhari flagship, the eternal precedent for kilometers of ceremonial brutality, took 11 simultaneous torpedo strikes to its drive section before its point defense grid even activated. It did not explode dramatically. It simply stopped. It hung in the debris field like a question. All its momentum bled out in an instant. its crew suddenly very aware of how quiet space becomes when your engines die. Kai watched it on the tactical display. He allowed himself one moment, just one, to think of the Marathai Elder Council hanging in their planet's rings. Next, he said, in the Grand Chamber, Tharvin received the first emergency signal from Prethon 4 minutes after Myra's arrival. He stared at her. She had not moved. She had not looked away. You're stalling, he said. I'm talking, Mira said. Those are different things. Stalling implies I need time. I just like for people to understand what's happening to them. Another signal. His aides were clustering now, their composure fracturing in small, visible ways, a posture shift here, a too quick gesture there. The Velhari were not accustomed to bad news. They had forgotten how to receive it gracefully. Your attack will fail, Tharvin said, and she could hear the first hairline crack in his certainty. Just a hairline. But she'd come here specifically to widen it. We have reserves. We have. Fleet Group 7 is already engaged at the Kunluri relay station, Mira said. That's your nearest reserve. They're currently dealing with the 64 drone platforms we pre-positioned 4 months ago. Ships commanded by a crew. Remotely, no one's even in danger for that one. Fleet Group 12 is responding to a reactor crisis on their resupply depot. That's not actually a crisis. That's a signal spoof. They'll figure it out in about 40 minutes. Fleet Group 3. She paused, checked the datapad, though she had all of this memorized. She checked it because she wanted him to watch her check it, wanted him to understand she had written this out beforehand, calmly, on paper. Fleet Group 3 is the one I'm not going to tell you about. That one's a surprise. The chamber was not silent now. It was full of desperate, hushed Velhari communication. Aides to commanders, commanders to distant ships. Everyone suddenly trying to confirm things that had always seemed unconfirmable, because who? Who would have dared? 11 years, Mira said. Her voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. You asked the question for 11 years. Every civilization you hit, you asked it. Who will stop us? And nobody answered because they were afraid, or outgunned, or they'd waited too long, or they thought someone else would step up. She tilted her head slightly. Earth was watching. Earth was learning. We have a habit of doing that. Tharvin's exoskeleton made a sound she'd never heard before, a high, thin harmonic that the translation bead couldn't categorize. You cannot have prepared sufficiently, he said. The scope of our military. We didn't prepare to match your military, Mira said. We prepared to dismantle it. Those are different problems. Your military is built for conquest, momentum, intimidation, overwhelming force against opponents who are already off balance. We built something that hits the mechanism. Supply chains, communication nodes, command latency, the 3 seconds it takes your hierarchy to authorize a response. She met his eyes, all 4 of them. You built a weapon. We built a solution. Her earpiece chimed once. She glanced at it. The eternal precedent is dead in space, she said. Kai says hi. The negotiations, if they could be called that, lasted 9 hours. Mira did not raise her voice once. She did not threaten. She had no need to threaten. The tactical feeds updating in real time on every screen in the chamber were doing that work efficiently. She simply sat across from Tharvin and spoke clearly and waited for him to understand the shape of the thing she had built. The years of careful, unglamorous work that had gone into this room. This moment. These blood-wet boots on black stone inlaid with the names of the dead. At hour 7, one of the junior delegates asked, in a voice stripped of all its former arrogance, "How long have you been planning this?" Mira looked at him. "Since the Prethon moons," she said. "We watched the light from the explosion from our observatories. The whole planet watched." She paused. "We're like that. Show us something terrible, and half of us weep, and the other half get very, very quiet and start planning." They signed the cessation accord at the 9th hour. Kai's fleet held position, patient as stone, until the signatures were verified. Mira walked out of the chamber the way she had walked in, alone, unhurried, boots still dark with blood she hadn't found time to clean. A young Velhari aide stopped her at the arch. "Who are you people?" he asked. Mira considered the question seriously, the way she considered everything. "We're the ones," she said, "who answer."